Ford took the most sold truck in America and made it electric. But does that make it more sellable? And for people who've never considered a truck before, does the electrification change anything? Are all of the electric features and gimmicks enough to make regular F-150 owners convert? And the biggest question of all, will I make it to the nearest rest stop in this 80-mile journey before my bladder implodes? Let's find out together. Like I said, the F-150 is one of the most popular vehicles in America, and for good-ish reason. But as we all know, gas is insane right now, and a lot of people are looking to put an end to the $100 fill-ups. You've got a dual motor setup mated to a single-speed transmission, and I gotta say, as a petrol head, getting used to the electric driving experience in this truck is definitely a process. And when I say a process, I don't necessarily mean something you have to actively do to get used to it, but whenever you floor it from a standstill or speed up in general, your brain may be adjusted to feeling that upshift and the sound the car makes at a certain RPM range. Especially in a large gas-powered truck, you can feel those shifts, but here you don't have that. You just hit the throttle and it goes until it doesn't. I'll get into performance specifics a little bit later, but that's something I had to let off. Every F-150 Lightning trim comes with a 5.5-foot flatbed, and so far that's the biggest size you can get for this vehicle. But because this car doesn't have a gas engine, you've now got a powered frunk for the first time ever in an F-150, and this frunk is 14.1 cubic feet, so you can fit plenty of luggage, the occasional human, or use it for frunk gating. Like tailgating, but for the frunk. Yeah, that phrase might not catch on, but it's definitely going to be a thing. With the F-150 Lightning, you've got 4 major trims: the Pro, XLT, Lariat, and Platinum. And with each trim, you can opt for either the standard range or extended range battery. The standard range should get you around 230 miles of estimated range, while the extended range battery should get you around 320 miles of range on every trim except for the Platinum, which has a 300-mile range estimate. 230 miles of range isn't crazy, but when you consider the weight and aerodynamics of the car, I think it's a solid number. But of course, when you load up the car with heavy things, tow a trailer, or engage in some spirited driving, you're gonna definitely notice more limited range. And if you're someone who does all of those things, the extended range battery is probably the model you want to consider. As far as how Ford's estimated range translates to real-world performance, in my experience, I gotta say it's pretty darn accurate if you're doing very standard pedestrian driving 100% of the time. I noticed even just putting it on in sport mode and just testing out the speed and acceleration a little bit, I noticed a significant dip in my range. But the car has an estimated 2.3 miles per kilowatt hour, and I gotta say, it was just about there for me the whole time, minus when we did the Airstream and did some off-roading. I'd say those were the only scenarios in which that rating went down, but I'd say throughout the whole time it was usually around 2.3 or even 2.4 in certain scenarios when I was driving really slow. I spent most of my time in the Platinum version of the car, and if you can afford it, I think it's the one to get, and not just because of the range, but the interior is pretty vastly different between this and the base Pro F-150 Lightning. The XLT, the Lariat, and Platinum all feature this massive 15.5-inch touchscreen that Ford introduced in the Mustang Mach-E, if you're familiar with that car. And a lot of automakers are trying to turn every button and switch possible into a screen or capacitive button, and sometimes I feel like it's really unnecessary in certain scenarios, but I think the F-150 Lightning has a really good job of blending both. They haven't overscreened this car. I think the new interface could have been one of the car's biggest issues, but they developed it in a way that just makes sense. I had never experienced this UI before getting to test out this car, but I felt right at home as soon as I got in and didn't struggle at all to figure things out on a basic level. This car supports Apple CarPlay as well, wireless and wired, and I think the way they integrated it into the existing UI works really well. Another feature that really surprised me was finding an 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system in the Platinum version. The sound system in here bumps, and it only makes sense given the kind of vehicle this is and given the fact that it's basically an $100,000 vehicle. People are presumably going to be taking a car like this on extended journeys and will likely want a very competent sound system to enjoy those rides with some sweet tunes. The Lariat trim comes with a B&O system as well, but only 8 speakers, not 18. And me saying this doesn't necessarily mean the Pro or XLT sound system is bad, and quite frankly, I didn't spend that much time listening to the sound system in the Pro and XLT, so my opinion on this is a little weak at the moment, but it didn't impress me in a noteworthy way compared to the B&O system. Another killer killer feature you get starting with the XLT trim is this center work surface. Firstly, the center console storage in here is fantastic. I could easily fit my camera and a handful of lenses in there with no problem. But then this storage console also doubles as a mini work table when you fold it out. And as someone who needs to use my laptop on the go every now and then, this is a really useful feature. There are so many practical use cases for it, being able to eat comfortably, use your laptop, things like that. The seats in this Platinum trim are also quite good. I put over 100 miles on the Platinum trim and didn't get uncomfortable once, outside of my bladder issue that I mentioned in the beginning. The front seats can be heated and cooled and offer a massage mode that I certainly took advantage of. I also got to take the car down some twisties and definitely would have benefited from a slightly larger bolsters to kind of hug me in place a little bit more when throwing the car around those corners. Not that I was throwing it around, but you know, kind of going through those corners in a decently fast pace. But this car's main purpose isn't really for spirited driving, so I can give that a pass. As a tech enthusiast, having good connectivity in a car is a big deal for me, and having 8 total USB ports is a definite win, especially when a few of them are USB-C. Quite honestly, every new car, electric or not, should have at least one USB-C port in the car. But let's say you've managed to occupy all 8 USB ports and need more. Well, there are 8 standard outlets in the car in the front, the back, the frunk, and the flatbed, and 2 of those are 120 volt compatible. So if you need to plug in your phone or a microwave or something like that, the Lightning's got you covered. And powering a microwave is cool as heck, but being able to power your entire house with a vehicle, that's pretty cool as well. This car features something called Ford Intelligent Backup Power, and if you opt to get Ford's Pro charging station installed in your house by an electrician, you can power your home for up to 3 days, or 10 days if you're conservative in the event that power goes out or something like that. And there are certain parts of some states in the US that experience power outages all the time, so having a feature like this is a definite game changer for a lot of people. This Pro charging station is included with every extended range version of the car, but you're still able to buy one if you've got a standard range model. Ford also showed us that this car is capable of charging up other electrical vehicles like the Mustang Mach-E, and while personal owners of this car probably won't use a feature like that very often, I could totally see this being put to use by a company like AAA. It's known that temperatures can have an effect on electric vehicle range depending on the extremities, so let's say you get stuck on the side of the road because you ran out of range a little bit sooner than you anticipated, AAA or whoever could just pull up in an F-150 Lightning and get you some juice to get you on your way. I could totally see that being a thing. The standard range models will come with a 98 kilowatt hour battery, delivering 452 horsepower and 775 pound-feet of torque, while the extended range models have an 131 kilowatt hour battery with 580 horsepower and the same 775 torque figure. And in a vehicle like this, that torque figure is arguably a lot more important than the horsepower, but those figures allow the standard range battery to do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, and the extended range battery does 0 to 60 in around 4.5 seconds. When you put into consideration the 6,100 pound curb weight of the car, a sub 5 second 0 to 60 is pretty freaking quick, and whether you're trying to overtake someone on the highway or just drive fast because you want to, this truck's got the juice for it. I will say that despite being an electric vehicle, it's not as peaceful and serene as I thought it would be before getting in. Inside the vehicle, you hear a lot of the road noise because of the absence of a gas-powered motor and exhaust. And this makes sense because it's a truck, so it's got massive wheels and tires, and that's going to cause more road noise. But yeah, it's not a loud or noisy car by any means, and anyone coming from a gas-powered F-150, especially someone with like, you know, a higher end or modified version with a loud exhaust, you're definitely going to notice the difference. But it's no Rolls-Royce in terms of masking that road noise. Not that you should be comparing the two, but I felt like it's worth mentioning because Ford was hyping that aspect up like a little bit. The actual driving experience on normal roads is great. The car's super smooth as to be expected, and you've got all the tech assists that you could possibly need. Pre-collision auto braking, lane keep assist, and on the highest end Platinum trim, you've got Ford's Blue Cruise hands-free system, and this allows you to do hands-free highway driving. Blue Cruise has sensors to ensure that the driver is keeping their eye on the road, otherwise the system will start bugging you, and based on our testing, you can't lane change or anything like that with Blue Cruise, but the system is very solid and reliable as long as you've got clear and defined road markings. When the road markings start to get a little sketchy or fade away, that's when the car might have difficulty understanding which lane it's supposed to be in. We got the opportunity to tow the car and take it off-road, and Pro, XLT, and Lariat trims have a 10,000 pound tow capacity. The Platinum has an 8,400 pound tow capacity, so we took an Airstream on a 30-mile trip, and I was really impressed with how the car maneuvered doing basic and tight turns with the Airstream attached. It didn't quite feel like there was a 4,000 or 5,000 pound Airstream attached to the back of the car. And while having a trailer attached is definitely going to affect your range, just like a gas-powered F-150, this is something that the Lightning does with ease. The off-road experience was really great too. We got to do some really steep climbs and got a really good sense of the benefits and power delivery for off-roading that come with electrification. That instantaneous torque is truly a game changer for off-roading, but the turning radius in this truck isn't exactly small, and so for tighter maneuvering it would have been really cool to have rear wheel steering in this truck. But it's not the end of the world. I will say the locking E-diff feature is really great for getting out of ruts and dips in the terrain. That could be a make or break for having a reliable off-road experience depending on the extremity. I don't think Ford is trying to market the F-150 as the electric off-road king, except for one guy at the briefing who said the Lightning drives like a rally car. And I don't know what kind of rally cars he drives, but that's not quite how I would describe driving this 6,000 pound behemoth off-road, but it'll get the job done for sure. The one thing I didn't really get to experience with this vehicle at all was charging, so I have no idea what the experience is like in terms of how long it takes and the overall experience, but you can check out Ford's site for all the on-paper specifics for that. Overall, I think it's really apparent that Ford has clearly spent years trying to develop a competent electric pickup that can address, number one, all the biggest downsides of having a gas-powered F-150 and add a bunch of useful features on top of that. And that's why I know a few people personally who have an allocation for one of these, and these are people that didn't have F-150s before. And that's a telltale of how much all of these practical features you're getting as a result of electrification can sway someone who may not have considered a truck before. I can't afford to own one of these on top of the car I own now, but if I could, I would totally buy a Platinum and use it as a content capture vehicle. I could have someone in the truck bed grabbing B-roll shots of another car, and if I wanted to, I could hook up a bunch of high-powered lights and filming accessories on the go. That kind of utility is a dream from a production standpoint, and that's just one of the many different scenarios in which the F-150 Lightning and all of its new features have so many practical use cases for everyday professionals, whether it be gardening or video production. This truck is going to be an absolute win for Ford, and not just because of the car itself, but because of Ford's visible passion for the customer base and their integrity as a brand. They're one of the few brands in electric that has been outspoken about the things that they're doing to control dealership markups, which has been a huge issue lately. And so I think this vehicle should do very well, just like the regular F-150 has. So I just want to let you guys know, on that 80-mile trip, I did find somewhere to use the bathroom, so I was all good with that. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe because this is just the beginning. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.